How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be continuing my Halloween series. Basically, all October long, I'm going to be trying to cover as many Halloween-specific movies as I can. Not just horror movies, I cover horror movies all the time, but I'm talking about legitimate Halloween movies that take place during the Halloween season and or around Halloween. And today I have one I'm very excited for, and that is Night of the Demons 2. This one was from 1994, directed by Brian Trenchard-Smith, and once again stars Amelia Kinkade as Angela. Sadly, the only character to return from the first one. I wish Raj or someone else could have showed up, but hey, good to have Amelia Kinkade back. She kind of becomes the series' regular villain, and it's really cool to see her back. You also got Jacoby and Zoe Trilling. Now, the first Night of the Demons, I'm a big fan of. If you like comedy horror, if you're Evil Dead fans, definitely check out the first one. A video rental store cult classic. Then you have the second one, the remake, rather. The remake is actually pretty good, and I definitely recommend it if you like the first. Now, I covered both of those last year, and this year I wanted to cover Night of the Demons 2. Now, there is a Night of the Demons 3, sometimes known as Demon House. Sadly, that one didn't have a huge DVD print run, and it is yet to be re-released on Blu-ray. I really want to cover it, but it is super hard to find. Now, if it does get a re-release anytime soon, or if I happen to stumble across a used copy in a store, I go DVD hunting all the time. But if I do find a copy, I'll try to get a review out pretty fast. But Night of the Demons 3, kind of rare. If, Olive Films did 2, Scream Factory did 1, if one of those, boutique video places wants to come out with it, I will buy it. Arrow Films, Olive Video, something like that. If you guys want to do it, I would be very grateful. But, all that aside, let's talk specifically about 2. I rewatch Part 1 all the time, but I've only seen, before I did this rewatch, I had only seen Part 2 once, and that was right after I saw the first one, and I think I was still kind of riding a Night of the Demons high, because I remember thinking this one was pretty good, but I hadn't really rewatched it. Now, I did a rewatch to do this review, and it's not really as good as I remember it. It's not really a bad movie by any means. There's parts of it I really do like, but sadly, not as good as the first movie there. And there's a few reasons for that. Primarily, it's the characters. The first one had such a lovable bunch of knuckleheads, and they were all good. They had good chemistry. They bounced off each other. It was really fun. I love this group. Here, they're more like B-grade Friday the 13th characters, and every now and then there'll be one that, kind of sticks out, the main girl's fine, the nun is a cool character, but they're not as good, and you get like, Stooges group of, punk rock kids. They're way better than like this movie's basically just thugs, and the first one, that's really hard to equal. Those characters were great. Here, they're not as good. And you also have the pacing. The first one, we get to Hull House really, really quick. Wacky demon shenanigans start really, really fast. This one, it's not really till the third act. I mean, there are some stuff beforehand. The lipstick scene, the hands were a little bit before the third act. But it's pretty much you have to wait for the third act. You have to watch these kids hang out at school for a long time. Then they have to go to Hull House. Then they have to come back from Hull House to go to the Halloween party at the school. And then they have to go back to Hull House again. And it's not till that final section where they finally get back to Hull House where this movie gets up and, goes and does some cool stuff. And sadly, that means waiting till pretty much the third act for it to get really good. Now, when it does get good, it gets good. There's some really good gore effects, actually, in this one, There's a corpse that loses his head that plays basketball with it. You see a head in a toilet bowl. That was funny. And, you do get in this movie where they take holy water and they put it in water guns and water balloons. Sounds kind of silly, but when a demon gets a water balloon full of holy water and you see it melt on the floor, that's pretty fun. So that was cool. And there is, you know, some stuff like that. Angela in this movie has a final form. That's pretty cool, you know, so there is stuff like that I really did like. It did build to some really good gore effects. It just took a minute to get there. There's also a few things with the rules, you know. In the first movie, the demons couldn't cross the stream, couldn't leave Hull House. In this one, they did find a few reasons why they could, like if you find a haunted object and bring it over the river yourself, or if you summon them yourself, you know, so they do find a few ways for Angela to leave Hull House, which, I mean, at least they wrote a reason why, but at the same time, I'm like, she's not supposed to do that. There's another thing, too. They say that between the first movie and this movie, Angela became a demon, which is not what the first movie said. The first movie made it very clear. Humans that die are ghosts, but spirits, evil spirits that have never walked the earth in human form. That was a big thing. They never walked the earth in human form. Those are the demons. So the first movie, I mean, I think even Conjuring actually quoted Night of the Demons saying that. But yeah, they kind of said in this movie that Angela became a demon. In the first movie, that was a big no-no. So they did break that rule as well. So there's a few continuity things here, a few things that get under your skin a little bit, you know? So there is that. But overall, it does lead to a good finale. It just takes a minute to get there, and yeah. Let's go ahead and talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the movie's about. No major spoilers for this one. I will talk openly about part 1, though. Anyway, we open up with some door-to-door missionaries, and they go to Hull House, which obviously looks abandoned, but they still go anyway. I mean, what you gonna do, right? They go in and they meet Angela. Guess it's not abandoned, right? Well, you can tell from their conversation something's up, and they eventually find a big wedding cake. Angela is the black veil bride, after all. They find a big wedding cake of her and the devil. They're the figures at the top of the cake, and they're getting married. So there they know something's up, and that's when Angela pulls out a knife and kills them both. Now, sadly, this first kill is off-screen. You just get a blood splatter, and I was a little disappointed, and I'm like, oh man, is this movie gonna be like all off-screen stuff? No, it does go crazy towards the end. For whatever reason, this first kill is just off-screen, though, so that, nah. But anyway, so we see Angela still haunting Hull House. That's a cool idea, that she remains and she wanders the halls all year round, you know. That's cool. So she's there, but why is she there? What exactly happened? Well, luckily for us, a group of schoolgirls are going to be telling ghost stories and recap what happened in the first movie and tell us what happened in between. You see, after the events of the first movie, the police show up and there's blood and gore everywhere. All the bodies are mutilated, right? And they go in and they eventually identify everyone's body, except Angela's body is missing. The police think maybe she just ran away or something, or maybe she was killed and buried somewhere else. No one knows, but according to legend, her ghost still walks the halls of Hull House. So it's a cool campfire story, but someone there is quite upset about this. A young girl named Melissa, I believe, but everyone calls her Mouse. And well, it turns out Mouse is actually Angela's younger sister. You see, after Angela disappeared, she sent, I don't know how she sent mail from Hull House, but she sent a letter to her parents, and that was apparently disturbing enough that her parents actually killed themselves, and now Mouse is alone, sent to live at a Catholic girls' boarding school. Well, a Catholic boarding school, there's boys and girls there, but she's sent to live there. She's an orphan, so of course she's quite sensitive about the whole thing, and she really misses her sister. And actually, I kind of like Mouse's character. I like the idea that, you know, Angela was kind of the goth, outgoing girl that, you know, would be in charge of everything, and then her having like a younger, nerdier sister. I thought that was really fun, and it played off things pretty well. So it was cool to see this element, and you do get a few scenes between the sisters, and I really wish we got more, because that was actually pretty fun to see the sisters play off each other. A cool idea, I just wish it was developed further, you know? But anyway, you get to meet a bunch of other characters at this school, lots of jocks and bullies and mean girls and stuff like that. And for the most part, relatively just, you know, B-grade Friday the 13th characters. Every now and then you get a funny line out of one of them, like the King Snake line or something like that. But for the most part, not near as good as the first movie. You also meet one of the nerdy characters, and this nerd is actually obsessed with demons, and he wants to go out and fight them. Now, he has books, and he's trying to read and trying to figure this out. And you also get Pastor Bob, or Father Bob, and he comes in and he's like, okay, don't do this. That's a bad idea. Just focus on your studies, you know? And you also get this nun character who's kind of your stereotypical angry nun. But what I do like with this nun character is they don't just make her into a punching bag. The nun actually is able to turn the tables on the kids quite a few times. And even though, you know, it starts off as this stereotypical angry nun, well, when the villains are demons, it turns out she's actually quite good at fighting demons, you know, because she is a nun, right? You know, so you get this character that's kind of a stereotype, but as the movie goes on, you're like, oh wow, she's actually pretty useful, which does lead to a pretty over-the-top scene towards the end. You're like, oh wow, she's that powerful apparently, you know? So there is some cool and crazy stuff with this character, and a lot to like there, you know? But anyway, the nerd that's really into demons, well, one of the mean girls takes a book from him, a book on summoning demons, and then decides, hey, let's ditch the school's Halloween party in favor of staging our own at Hull House, and let's bring Mouse along but not tell her where we're going. And of course, they use the book to stir up demons, and the nerd eventually figures out what's going on and has to stop it, and they do run back and forth between the school until they finally settle at Hull House and do their big climax. And overall, when they finally get to the climax, that's pretty fun. It's just traveling back and forth, having all these characters that aren't as good as the originals. You know, it does kind of ruin it there. The first one, great lovable characters, and a short and sweet plot. You go to Hull House, you explore it, you find out it's haunted, and then you run for your life and try to get out. Here it's, you know, new characters, and the book, and the lipstick, and, you know, the demons getting out of Hull House and coming to the party, and then going back to Hull House and trying to finish them off, and yeah, it's just a little more messy and all over the place. It doesn't start till way later, and the characters aren't as good, but when it starts, it does start, and there's a lot to like at the end. So I'm not, you know, totally trashing this movie or anything. It's just, you know, not near as good as the first one, you know? So it's fun. If you like B-horror movies, you know, like, you know, the first one's a classic. Definitely have to check that out. But the second one is better than a lot of B-horror, you know? It's not really terribly boring. It's just, you know, you get the opening where they're hanging out at school for, like, way too long. You know, there's stuff like that. But overall, I did like the effects at the end, and I did like when it finally got to the gore. It's just one of those movies that I'm like, man, if this only happened at the 30-minute mark instead of the 60-minute mark. But whatever, there are still a few fun scenes, and even before it gets started, you know, you do have a fun twist on, you know, Linnea Quigley's lipstick tube. You have the famous hand scene, which I will leave as a surprise. So there is a bit to like. It's just, you know, it's hard not to compare it to the first one, but it still is pretty fun. Anyway, whenever they release Night of the Demons 3, I'll get around to reviewing that pretty quick, whenever they release it onto Blu-ray, rather. But anyway, For right now, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You're really helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom if you guys want to see more. This should be my Halloween playlist, where you can find my reviews for the first Night of the Demons and the remake in there as well as other Halloween stuff like Trick or Treat or All Hallows Eve or the John Carpenter series. I've done a lot of those. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.